Hi, Schlockmeister fans. I've resurrected a late 80s video store shelf classic, Invisible Maniac. Let's check it out.
You have to be gentle, Mrs. Dornwinkle. I urge you to give him trust and understanding during this very difficult period. You have a very confused little boy there.
As our opening credits play, we see a girl stripping. It looks like through a telescope or something. Yep, a telescope, but that young boy they were talking about, his name's Kevin.
What are you doing? Nothing, Mother. Nothing, huh? What are you looking at?
He's busted.
Oh, women are bad, Kevin. Women are evil. I don't want you looking at them. I don't want you talking to them. And I don't want you thinking about them.
20 years later.
I have devised a way for a man or a woman to become completely invisible.
Little Kevin has grown up to be a scientist. Needless to say, the rest of his colleagues think he's a quack.
Dornwinkle, you are a disgrace to the scientific community.
Dornwinkle, you're the stupidest man I've ever seen.
Well, he snaps. He goes crazy. He ends up killing 4 of his colleagues.
Four of the world's top scientific minds. Now, in a turn of events almost as shocking as the murders themselves, Dr. Dornwinkle will escape the death penalty due to a psychiatrist's testimony that he is mentally incapable of standing trial.
However, just 6 months after he's placed in this institution, Dornwinkle escapes. And he gets a job as a teacher.
Good morning, everybody.
Well, Dr. Smith, I'm going to leave you to mold these young minds into the future physicists of tomorrow.
Thank you, Miss Jello.
Well, all these years later, he's still a pervert. Here he is checking out the nubile young teenagers at his high school, who are clearly played by women in their 20s.
This is good. Let's drive them nuts.
What do you mean by nuts?
Nothing serious, just some harmless fun. Some innocent pranks.
They're going to tease Mr. Smith, the new teacher.
My serum.
Meanwhile, he's still working on the potion of invisibility.
HS3, of course. Tonight is a night that will go down in history. Injection completed.
So he injects this bunny rabbit with the invisibility potion.
Now waiting for the serum to take effect.
And guess what?
This is fantastic.
Next up, of course, is trying it on himself.
I'm dizzy. Oh God, I can feel it working! It worked!
What does he do with this power? Well, of course, the first thing he does is sneak into the room of some beautiful young woman and pull her clothes off. Take a look at her naked. Porn star Savannah plays Vicky.
Well, actually, I wanted to talk about my grades. You see, I need an A in physics this summer in order to graduate, and I'd be willing to do anything for an A.
They've all decided to drop their books at the same time. The principal, Miss Cello,
But I gotta go to college.
has her issues too.
Maybe we can work out some kind of arrangement.
Great.
She has really nice boobs. I wish I could show them to you, but I can't. The girls discuss their pranking.
Anybody that wears his pants as high as he does, he's got to be a little bit off. A little off? I think he's a lot off. Come on, you guys. I think you're being a little too hard.
I'll be very blunt with you.
Miss Cello again.
I find you extremely attractive.
Not only does she like that one student, she likes Mr. Dornwinkle as well.
Desk.
He rejects her, though.
I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but it has. I want you out of this school and out of this town. I'm calling the police as soon as you leave this office.
Not wanting to lose his job, Dornwinkle has a change of heart and goes to kiss her, but he also grabs a knife. And then he turns invisible and goes after this kid by stuffing a sandwich down his throat. Kills him. That girl is next. Next, he drowns a girl in a fish tank. And chokes her buddy. Savannah gets choked in the shower. And this poor guy gets punched and pushed off a roof. When Samora plays Bunny, she finds a body. He got into a fight with Mr. Dornwinkle while he was invisible, but then the potion wears off.
Tis I, your friendly neighborhood invisible maniac.
The battle continues and a chase ensues. He gets home and is able to invisibilize himself. And the fight is on.
Come out!
Then the kid finds the needle and injects himself. So now we got two invisible people fighting each other. The police are at the door and then blew the head right off. And the cops think that's Dorn teacher. But the cops are wrong. Without a head they couldn't identify. But Dornwinkle's just fine. Our last scene in the movie, Dornwinkle is still horny. Ripped her dress right off. Alright, let's talk about this movie, The Invisible Maniac. You can see the box there. It says the new physics professor has a disappearing act that's a real scream. And of course we see some buxom babes on the front cover there in various stages of undress. And of course we're led to believe this is some sort of, typical kind of teen sex comedy type thing with an invisibility thing going through it. But what we have here is actually, it's a horror movie. We had this professor who... from a very young age, he's a pervert. He was spying on his neighbor with the telescope. He grows, I think he had some mama issues as well, but he grows up and he becomes this professor, and he invents this invisibility potion. And when he presents it to some panel somewhere, they all laugh at him and think he's nuts. Of course, his potion doesn't quite work yet either, but he proposes this. They all think he's crazy. Like I said, they laugh at him, and he attacks a couple of them and kills them. He apparently kills 4 of them and gets sentenced to a mental institution, where he promptly escapes from 6 months later. Next thing you know, he shows up as a high school science teacher. Well, he's kind of nerdy, and some of the students pick on him. A couple of them, or one of them wants to get like sexual with him, like tease him and stuff, because she needs to get an A. That's played by Savannah, a porn star actually in the late 80s, early 90s. He perfects his potion, and of course, like anybody else who is a red-blooded American boy, he's got to go right to the girls' locker room. He has to spy on girls and stuff. His potion actually does work. Well, he also goes a little crazy because of all the bullying that happens to him, and he starts killing off the students one by one, like a typical slasher movie from the 80s, although this came out in 1990. So ultimately, he kills a bunch of people, and then these two of them find out what he is. One of them confronts him at his apartment, and they get into a fight. The professor is invisible, but the guy finds his syringe and stabs himself with it, so he turns invisible too. So we have two invisible people fighting each other. Next thing you know, a gun is pulled, a shotgun, and blows a guy's head off, and then his body reappears just as the cops come in. They're like, oh, good, the professor saved us. He killed himself. He saved us from a big trial and all this, blah, blah, blah. Well, turns out that the guy whose head was completely blown off was the kid, and the professor comes back and he's like, ha 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 ha. So he's alive again. And then the last scene in the movie is the professor, as an invisible man, ripping the blouse off of this TV news anchor and just exposing her boobs on TV. Of course, she wasn't wearing a bra because they never do. So anyway, that's the end of this movie. Wow, quite a film. There's actually a lot of nudity in this movie, more than I remembered, more than I thought there would be. Several shower scenes. Like I said, Savannah, porn star, was one of the actresses in this movie. Melissa Moore, who did a lot of B-movie, screen queen type stuff. I always had a kind of little crush on her. She was in this movie as well, topless, naked as well. Lots of nudity. The guy who plays the professor was a guy played by a guy named Noel Peters. It's the only movie he ever did. In fact, some of the actresses in this, the only movie they ever did too. Melissa Moore obviously did more things, as did Savannah, of course. But yeah, that's this movie. It's Invisible Maniac. Now, it's not available on DVD. It's VHS only. I have the VHS tape, which is where I burned this from. Made some homemade box art like you know I love to do. And that's it. I'll leave a link to Amazon down below if you're looking to buy it, although I think it's getting a little pricey now on Amazon. So you might want to go over to eBay to snatch it up. You can probably get it hopefully in the $20, $25 range, but it's not a bad movie for what it is. It's a nudie comedy slasher, although it does lean more towards horror in my opinion. So, although you wouldn't know it from this box, but yeah, it's the Invisible Maniac. So check it out. Leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think about it. Invisible Maniac. Watch it. Bye.